Hello everyone, Legend Jim here, and in today's video, I plan to go over one of the strongest wing spikers currently in both Japanese and global servers, Kiyoomi Sakusa. We'll be taking a closer look at his skillset, resonance, memory, potentials, and whether he's a master or pass for any future teams. Starting with his skillset. His first skill is called Relentless Offense. Kiyoomi Sakusa's power attack increases by 10% and receive stat increases by 20%. When he performs a receive, his power attack stat increases by 6% up to 3 stacks, for a total of 18%, lasting until his next spike. When Sakusa performs a spike, his receive stat increases by 15%, lasting until the next receive. This ability is pretty self-explanatory. Essentially, Sakusa keeps boosting his own receiving and attack power back and forth. His second skill is called Flawless. It's a receiving ability. Sakusa performs a receive with power equal to 150% of his receive stat. When his receive power exceeds 170% of his receive stat, his reflex increases by 10%, and the cooldown of this receiving ability is reduced by 2 net crossings, lasting for the entire match. When Sakusa's receive power exceeds 200% of his receive stat, his defensive technique increases by 15%, lasting for the entire match as well. If you hadn't figured it out by now, Sakusa's playstyle involves around receiving the ball to be able to buff himself further and to dish out maximum amount of power in his spikes. His third skill is called Dope Spiker. When Sakusa is on the court and an allied player performs exceptionally well in a defensive action, like receiving, saving, or blocking, Sakusa gains 1 stack of the Perfectionism buff. Each stack of Perfectionism increases his receiving by 6% of his total receive stat, and spike power by 6% of his power attack stat, up to 20 stacks. When Kiyoomi Sakusa performs a spike, each stack of Perfectionism increases his awareness by 10%, lasting for 2 net crossings. When Sakusa scores with a spike, all of the Perfectionism stacks are consumed, and for each one consumed his reflex increases by 2%, up to 20 stacks. At the end of the round, when Sakusa scores with a spike, he gains 5 stacks of the Perfectionism buff. So, in simple terms, Sakusa is a player who semi-depends on his teammates to perform exceptionally well during defensive actions so he can benefit himself, helping him increase his own awareness, receiving, reflex, and spiking power. That means we need to have players who can constantly perform exceptionally well to maximize his potential. Finally, his last skill is called Spiral Spike. Sakusa performs a power spike with 260% of his power attack stat. If he's in the back row, this spike gains an additional 40% boost. When this spike achieves exceptional performance, the opponent's receive power is reduced by 15% of the receiving player's receive stat. All in all, Sakusa is a player who sits most comfortably in the back row, surrounded by players who do exceptionally well constantly and can even boost his chances of performing exceptional as well. Next, let's take a look at his Resonance 2 and 4. For skill Resonance 2, at the start of a match, Sakusa gains 5 stacks of the Perfectionism buff. His third ability also gains an additional effect. With each stack of Perfectionism that is consumed, allied players' reflex increases by 1.2%, up to 20 stacks. When Sakusa serves, opposing players' awareness decreases by 8% and strength decreases by 16%, lasting for 8 net crossings. Overall, I'd say this is a pretty good resonance buff. Sakusa starts the game with extra stacks of Perfectionism, meaning he can be useful even at the start of the match. His serves now gives debuffs to the enemy, and the stacks now buff his teammates, making it more likely he himself to gain more Perfectionism stacks faster. If you have this resonance, I suggest you put Sakusa on the second spot, as to take advantage of his serving debuff, and have him go in the back row as quickly as possible. At skill Resonance 4, when Sakusa is on the court, and allied players perform exceptionally well in a defensive play, like receiving, saving, or blocking, for every 10% reflex that player has, Sakusa, apart from the Perfectionism stack, he now also gains 1 stack of Breakthrough, with each stack increasing his strength by 10% up to 15 stacks, lasting until the next spike. As per usual, Resonance 4 is as powerful here as any others, and in this case, pretty self-explanatory. Overall, Sakusa's Resonance are both really sweet. Base Sakusa by himself is really good, and I think Resonance 2 is the sweet spot for him, with Resonance 4 being for the wells or huge fans of the character. Next, let's take a look at his memory. It increases the equiper's power attack stat by 12%. When the equiper performs a receive, Their attack technique increases by 15%, lasting for 2 net crossings. After the equiper performs a receive, their spirit increases by 4%, stacking up to 4 times. This is another straightforward memory, and is meant to further enhance Sakusa and work around his skillset. It would work for a few wing spikers that, apart from a power spike ability, also have a receiving one, like Tanaka and Iwaizumi. At last, let's take a look at his potential build. There are many ways you could build Sakusa, each depending on your own playstyle. You can focus on his defensive capabilities, his offense, or a mix of both. If you want higher receiving, you should opt for a 4-piece assist receive, blast, or supreme receive potential. For full offense, give him 4 power eyes plus 2 power vibe build. For a mixed build, I'd say the switchboard is a 4 power eyes plus 2 assist or supreme receive potential. Power vibe works for Sakusa, but in my opinion power eyes is a tad bit better because throughout the match, since Sakusa does a bit of everything like serving, receiving, and spiking, his stamina drains pretty fast, so having that extra plus 5 stamina after each successful spike really helps him maintain his energy throughout the game. With that out of the way, the main attribute you'll want to look for in slot 1 is of course power attack. For slot 2, you can opt for either awareness or power attack if that's your kind of thing. Not really any wrong choices here. Strength also works, but I definitely choose power attack over it. For slot 4, I think the most obvious choice here is receive. We want to maximize his chances of probing his second skill. Lastly, for slot 6, it's completely up to you to choose either power attack or receive. Again, no wrong choices here. Attack or defensive technique also works. If you have resonance too, you might be tempted to go for a main stat with serve, and while it is true that Sakusa debuffs with his serve, he himself doesn't have an ability that boosts said serve, so it'd be a bit of a waste. For his substats, you'll want to be on the lookout for either receive or defensive technique, strength, power attack, attack technique, awareness, and reflex. As we all know, substats are complete RNG, so don't beat yourself up over getting a few useless ones here and there. Finally, let's take a look at his gameplay and skill animation. I currently have Sakusa in my Japanese account under Resonance 2, so keep that in mind. To sum up, Sakusa is still standing tall and strong in the current meta, even being used in Japanese servers. Is he a must? Maybe. At the end of the day, any character you get and build maximum amount of copies will outperform every other Dupe 0 character, so instead of chasing the meta, just focus on having fun and building a team with the characters you want the most. That's all from me. If you enjoyed the video, please show your support with a like, and even subscribe if you haven't. Thank you, and take care.